Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday Ask Me Anything session for uniform recruitment with the OPP. My name is Sergeant Daniel Mills, and I am here today with my colleague from North Bay, Renee Taylor. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Dan. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Well, we're fantastic. Look where we are right now.
You look like you're in front of the water with some
Yeah,
beautiful scenery in the background. Who's
yes.
with you? Who's with you, and where are you?
I'll let him introduce himself and I'll let him tell you where we are today.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Provincial Constable Ruben Lascano, and I'm an officer here at the Mattawa Detachment, satellite detachment for North Bay. And we are located by the Ottawa River and just where the Mattawa River enters the Ottawa.
Fantastic. Looks like a beautiful area, very much like most of Northern Ontario. I usually like to highlight those things when I'm trying to, you know, talk people into coming to the north and having a bit of an adventure. So that's just one of the beautiful locations that you'd find up north. Um, how are things going, Renee? What's going on in your world?
Really fantastic. Today I'm out on patrol with the front line today with Constable Lascano, and it's a beautiful day. It started out with more overcast, but it's breaking up a bit. So we've been between North Bay and Mattawa. We've been doing some frontline duties and a little bit of traffic today this morning, but lots on the go, lots coming up in Northeast region, and things are really good.
Awesome. Do you have any information sessions or symposiums or anything
Yeah,
coming?
we just had an information session on Thursday last week at the Northeast Region headquarters. We're probably going to be holding one every 4 to 6 weeks, so definitely keep looking on the uniform recruitment website for www.opp.ca under the upcoming events, because all of the Northeast Region and all the provincial events that are in person and virtual are posted there. And I'm actually looking forward to heading up to Moosonee. We're going to be doing some recruitment up in Moosonee in the James Bay area, and looking forward to hopefully a fall symposium there. So this is all in the making right now and super exciting.
Oh, perfect. I was hoping that I could make that trip up to
Yeah.
Moosonee with you. I've never been, and I'm super interested, and I would love to get up there.
We're already getting some registrations for the information session there. So anyone in the James Bay area that is looking to get some information about uniform recruitment, I will be in Moosonee in the beginning of May.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, and I'm hosting a couple information sessions next week as well, virtually. I have one on Monday at 12 o'clock, and I have one on Wednesday at 7 p.m. So if anybody out there is interested in attending a virtual information session, just go to our upcoming events and sign up for one of those. Awesome. Well, we've got a pretty interesting day today. We do have a special guest with us. He is the president of the OPPA, so the Ontario Provincial Police Association, and is a gentleman by the name of John Sarasulo. John, welcome to our AMA today.
Well, thanks for having me. Look forward to doing this for the next little while and answering some questions. And it's an exciting time, in policing. Big announcements today were made with regards to recruitment, which I think will have a positive effect on recruiting and attracting members to the policing profession.
So let's just start with what is the OPP Association?
So the OPP Association works for civilian and all the uniformed officers that are non-commissioned. So we have around 6,100, just a little over 6,100 uniformed non-commissioned officers and approximately 3,600 civilian employees, and they could be full-time and part-time employees. So we act as the sole bargaining agent for the members. We will negotiate your contract. We also represent our members with respect to labor relations, benefits, any pension questions. And one big thing that we were successful at the last round of bargaining is our integrated mental health program, which is a one-of-a-kind mental health program for our uniform members and full-time civilian members.
So remind me to circle back to that, and we can discuss that a little bit later. I just want to, I guess the most obvious conversation that I think that we'll be having today is the big announcement today. Why don't you fill everybody in on the big announcement?
Yeah, so the Premier and the Solicitor General announced today that for the upcoming classes, it also applies to the last recruit class, that the tuition will be waived. Right now, the tuition is just under $16,000, I believe, for the Ontario Police College, and that has currently been waived. We are very, very happy about that, because that will assist our recruiters in attracting applicants, possible applicants for our profession. And I think that's a huge announcement as well. We always call it a bottleneck at the Ontario Police College, but they're increasing the number of recruits in this year's classes, and in next year's class, instead of 3 cohorts, they're going to go to 4 cohorts next year, which we're potentially going to see just a little over 2,000 recruits a year with 4 cohorts coming out of the Ontario Police College.
So you indicated that's going to start next year. So is that 2024 that the 4 cohorts are going to start?
Correct. I believe class sizes are just going to increase now from 460 to 520, 70 to 140 recruits per class, I believe.
That's wild. So when you're talking about the 2,000 number of recruits, that's provincially with all police services. That's not specifically geared toward the OPP. So we're currently in the 400 range with the 3 cohorts, trying to get the 135 per class that is our target for the seats that we have allotted to us. So add another cohort to that, and we'll be between the 500 and 600 recruit range, which is incredible. I'm not sure how we're going to pull that off in uniform recruitment, but stay tuned on that one.
You know what? I think you guys will be ready for that, and you'll be able to get us the recruits that we need for the front line. I know our members are quite excited about that, because we have a lot of people that will be retiring over the next 5 years. Potentially, there's upward towards both civilian and uniform from the OPPA 1,900. So we need to, backfill those positions. Plus, we have some current vacancies that we need filled as well. And I put it out there to all people that are interested in policing. This is the perfect time to be applying to the OPP or any other police service as well. We're all in this together. We may wear different flashes, but we're in this together. We need to make the profession viable and sustainable. And by doing that, we need to provide the resources for that.
Yeah, it really is an incredible time to be exploring the idea of a career in policing. That's one of the things that I've been, highlighting for a little while now, like with the 135 that we're hiring per class, like that's more than we've hired annually for a really long time. And we're still just kind of treading water as far as our numbers go. So with this announcement, I hope to see, I hope it will bring us more applicants, more qualified applicants that we can process. I hope that, because I do know through conversation with potential applicants that I've been mentoring and dealing with people who attend information sessions, that OPC tuition, which has just gone to 15,400, I think, for this last intake, it is a bit of a barrier, especially when you talk about some applicants who are coming out of post-secondary school. Not that that's one of our minimum standards. Our minimum standard is grade 12, but some people do have that behind them, and they come out with student loans or some debt that they have to worry about, and then they have this additional OPC debt, which has always been ominous and hanging over their heads. So
no, exactly, and that has been a hindrance, and I believe that's one of the factors that we've seen a decline in applications. over the years. And another piece of the announcement today, the new legislation that we were going to have implemented was that you were going to require post-secondary education, and that as well, it will stay with just high school as the minimum.
So that legislation is not going to move forward then, the proposed legislation to have.
That's right. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so there's going to be no worry about people who have just secondary school,
Correct.
no post-secondary, no worries or concerns about them. And is that across all police services?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be a standard.
Yes, awesome.
In the new community safety.
That's good. I could see that being very restrictive for us as recruiters, trying to drive interest in the OPP in particular, but policing in general. As far as like just limiting people with just secondary education, you know, and their ability
Many
to
different
apply.
backgrounds and experience.
Yeah, apprenticeships. There's just all kinds of different ways to learn, right? So I'd hate to limit that.
Well, and we're seeing it in the trades right now that they're not paying certain tuitions in apprentice programs, and we have to stay competitive. And in many other ways, as well as promoting the profession, we have to start doing that. We have always been, I think, we've lacked that promoting our profession, and you're starting to see it now. The media has. I've always said this the last few years. We've been demonized in the media, and the policing profession is a pretty solid profession, and it's very rewarding. Coming from someone like myself, 28 years police experience and working the road, I think we really need to sell what we do day in and day out instead of just keying in on some bad incidents that have occurred. And I have to say, in Canada, you don't see that as often because we were talking about it earlier about the Ontario Police College, about the consistent training, and we have oversight. We have plenty of oversight, and with the training that we get at the Ontario Police College and across Canada, it's very consistent, and we don't have a lot of the incidents that we do have in other jurisdictions.
So let's talk quickly about our salary and benefits potential applicants can look forward to. If you wouldn't mind commenting on that.
Well, I can tell you our contract, and that's one of our primary functions, is to negotiate a collective agreement for our members. It expired at the end of 2022. We're always hoping to, ensure that our members are compensated for the work that they do. Right now, we've dropped down because other municipal police services have negotiated their contracts. But we try to be in line with the bigs, we call it, and the mid-sized police services in Ontario. We try to be competitive, and match with our fellow police services. But as far as salary and benefits, I do get it by many members that sometimes our benefits are not that great. I can tell you, I've been working on the negotiations file for the last 3.5 years. Our benefits are pretty much second to none. There may be some areas where we might be lower than some other municipal services, but when you look at it in totality, across the board, we are very, very competitive in our benefits package, be it our vision, our dental, the psychological piece, which is unlimited in the Ontario Provincial Police. We were successful at negotiating that. And like I said, we do have an integrated mental health program. It's called Encompass that we have for our uniform members and our full-time civilians.
So what does that involve, John? What is the sorry, should I call you John? Should I call you Mr. President?
No, John's fine. So Encompass, and people laugh when I say this, but we call it a trough of resources. It's a 24/7 toll-free number that you can call, and it doesn't matter. You could be, it could be just a minor thing that you're dealing with, or it could be a very serious thing that you're contemplating. It's a 24/7 program. It's a care navigation program that you can begin with a care navigator, and they will cycle you through the forks for whatever type of treatment that you need to get you through and deal with whatever you're dealing with mentally. This job, we deal with, good things and a lot of bad things, sadly, unfortunately, but that's a true reality. And we just wanted to provide a program for our members that made sure that they were being looked after when they were suffering. And like I said, it could be a minor issue to a major issue. And we do have treatment centers as well for our members. And it's also for dependents as far as the care navigation piece and looking after their psychological well-being. Because as police officers, your family members live it just as much as the member themselves. And they have to deal with a lot of the things that you deal with at work, even though we don't go home and talk about it, but they need to be looked after as well. And that's the true, what we were trying to accomplish was to make sure that we were not just looking after the member themselves, their families as well.
Yeah, that's an important thing, and like I think about my journey through, some of the things that I've dealt with, and when I was off work for a period of time, dealing with some PTSD for a short period, and I felt like at the time it was 2014, and there wasn't a lot available for my partner at the time, and it was pretty impactful for her as well as for our relationship. So it's nice that these things are actually in place now, and our members are taking advantage of that, I hope.
Absolutely. So the program is into the third, well, we just completed the third year, and we've had over 2,300 people utilize the program, which is that is a success in itself, because the stigma that was in policing for many, many years, no one liked to talk about it, and everyone had to put a front up. But you know what? It's okay to not be okay, right? We say that a lot.
Yeah. So there's actually a question in the chat here for you, John. Lena is coming from the Ontario Public Service, but outside the OPP. Does her seniority transfer over if she comes from OPS OPSU
Yes.
to OPPA?
Did I lose you?
No. Are you there? Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, you just locked up there on me.
Okay, sorry.
So it does. Yeah, so I got the question. I can see the question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. So her seniority does transfer over as long as there's not a break in service, 90 days. So as long as there's not a 3-month break in service, it is considered continuous service. And, her vacation will come over as well as her continuous service date within the pension plan.
Okay. Kelly's asking, any roles available for individuals with disabilities? There's a variety of different opportunities within the OPP. I guess it would depend a little bit on the disability and what role you were interested in filling. But definitely something worth exploring, whether on the uniform side or the civilian side of the OPP. What other questions? Let's talk a little bit about durations, John.
So I'm pretty sure in the package that many people see, the information package, we do have durations in Northern Ontario. And I come from the North, worked in the North for most of my career, other than working for the association the past 7 years. But so we have durations. They vary from 2 years to 6 years. Now, the concept behind it, the good faith behind working at a duration is you go work in a duration, you do your time, and you'll be rewarded with a transfer out of that duration, a paid transfer. It's not, you get to pick where you want to go. You just may not get it first or second, because there is a lateral transfer list that you'll go on, and you'll have to wait for your position. But once your number comes up, based on your seniority in a duration, you will get that position of choice. Going to a duration, there's some benefits. you do, as a recruit, get $2,000 towards relocation. So for moving into a new location up in a duration. As well as there is what we call the duration incentive. So while you're in a duration, you can be paid up to a certain amount. The lower the term, the higher the incentive is, and that's all listed, I believe, in the information package.
Yeah, and it's really that financial incentive is really about trying to recognize some of maybe the inconvenience surrounding living in a remote community or a more isolated community. Maybe gas costs a little bit more, maybe heating your home costs a little bit more, maybe you have to travel out of the community to get certain things or to travel or do whatever, right? So organizationally, I like to say that we like to compensate people a little bit for that. They can use the money for whatever they want, get a new sled, a boat, a truck payment, whatever, right?
Yeah, it does help, when the new member does report to the new location. And it's just, extra spending money there to get them, accustomed to the area, because they're going to have to find a place to live. And that'll help them through that. With the additional relocation, because they do get, the 1 week's pay while they're there searching for a residence, a temporary or permanent residence, while they're working at the duration.
So I'm going to throw a question at Renee here. So I'm just scrolling through some of the questions here. I don't know if I'll get a chance to hit all of them. Nikita's asking if she has to pass the PIN test at the academy before going to OPC.
So the PIN test is an expectation. So it's really important to understand the PIN test and all of the requirements of it and how to score it. You should be practicing those components. So if you need to look it up, look on the Ontario Fitness Appraisal website. It'll show you all of the techniques and the requirements for the PIN test. But when you show up at the academy, it is an expectation that you'd be able to get a 75% or higher on the PIN test. So when you're applying to the OPP, you're going to get the 2 fitness logs that initially will come in with your application, but those fitness logs are going to continue throughout your entire recruitment process. On those fitness logs, it would be ideal to have a fitness PIN test there and maybe some shuttle runs as well, just so we can get an idea of where you're sitting with your activity level and fitness level. If you have any questions, though, about that, go to the Ontario Police Fitness Appraisal website, and you'll get all of the scoring sheets and the push-ups, the requirements that are required there for testing.
I believe that's pfpo.org, O-R-G. I think that's the site for that. Yeah, so the different language, expectation versus requirement, right? So we strongly would love to see you pass the PIN, but we're not sending you home if you don't. But when you do get to OPC, there is a requirement that you pass the prep test to successfully complete Ontario Police College and get your basic constable certificate.
Make sure that you research online what the prep test is if you have not done one, and look at all the components that are involved in that obstacle course.
So I know you've had a busy afternoon and night and morning, John, with the announcement. So I won't keep you. I just wanted to ask if you had anything to say about the HINTS program that the OPPA offers, just because it is specifically, kind of toward kind of recruits.
It is specific to recruits. It was a program that we started for members' children, but we're always willing to help out. It will help the individual as far as their interview, things to prepare for. You guys were talking about the prep test and the PIN test. We do touch on that a little bit, but mostly for the interview to be successful, and what expectations that are put on the recruit going to the interview, and different techniques that they can use to be successful. That's the biggest thing about the HINTS program. We want everyone that goes through the program to be successful. So I just want to say to everyone that's on the line, if you're interested in policing, go for it. And you could always reach out to the OPP Association for assistance. We're more than willing to assist.
Thanks very much for your time today, John. Really appreciate it. Like I said, I know you've had a busy evening, night, and morning, so we appreciate you taking the time out to join us today and give us some information.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you.
So we got a lot of questions here to catch up on.
Sounds great.
Let's see. There's a lot of questions about the auxiliary, about cadets, about special constables. We answered that one. Do you know, Renee, and you might not know this, I'm not sure of the answer to this, that's why I'm deferring it to you. So we'll see. Is the pen test applicable for special constable court officer positions, or is the prep required for those positions?
I know that through their recruitment process, I know that I've helped out with the shuttle run, but they're different requirements. So I would definitely inquire with the special constables unit for the exact prerequisites. Whether prep's required during training, I'm unsure, but I do know that there's a prerequisite of a shuttle run for special constables.
Does the OPP have similar program like the REACH program to help wannabe cops to get the training and coaching necessary? I have run programs in the past. There's one that I run that's called Are You Ready? And it's a 3-week mentoring program. I ran it in November, and my goal is to run it several more times this year. So stay tuned on that. And that's basically it's a 6-hour, so 2 hours a week for 3 weeks. It's a 6-hour kind of series of sessions that I do to mentor people in the areas of assessment and things that we're looking for, how to evaluate yourself, how to articulate, your strengths in those areas. And I talk a little bit about interviewing and some of those types of things as well. So I would say stay tuned to the upcoming events and maybe sign up for that if you end up seeing it. Hopefully I'll be doing one very soon. So somebody's asking about the PT or the physical training while at OPC. Each day may look different depending on the content that's being taught. Just curious about how much cardio and other physical training is expected per day.
This is a great question for
Oh,
Constable
yeah.
Lascano.
Yeah. How about that, Ruben? What can you say?
Do you know what's neat, Dan, is I'm working with Ruben today, and I come back from 20 years of policing, and he's newer on in the career. But honestly, today, just because of the last couple of years of technology and everything that's been changing in the OPP, he's been training me all morning on all kinds of things while we're out on the front line, which I think is extremely valuable, how much we teach each other in the organization all the time. But being just recently out of OPC, yeah, he could maybe let us know what's the fitness like when you're at OPC. What's the expectations there, and what was it like for you?
Well, coming from being in the military for 4 years, I had expectations that it was going to be some pretty good PT. The OPP holds itself at a higher standard compared to other services. That is true, and for a good reason. It was a lot of cardio in the mornings. You go out together in your class. You'll be out there before all other services, so expect that. And it's a lot of running, a lot of cardio, but you do it as a team, and you work well with others. So it's definitely an experience that I enjoyed. Even when I went through COVID, it was a little bit modified. However, it was a challenge, but it was enjoyable, and I got to work well with your new friends, your new partners in this career that's for the next 25 years. So yeah, expect a lot of PT, especially if you're going to join the OPP. Yeah.
It's as much team building as it is PT though, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it's all in good team spirit and camaraderie. So that's definitely the key. And yeah, it was good.
And if I know Staff Sergeant Barnaby, it's probably he makes it fun.
Oh yeah.
So Renee, if Mufasa is asking if he only has 3 or 4 choices for his detachments that he'd like to go to, can he only put the 3 or 4, or does he have to fill in all 6?
Yeah, it would be nice to know exactly where you can go. Don't put down locations that you can't go to because you might be considered for those locations. So we want to know exactly where you're able to go and where you'd like to go. We really have a good team that sits and considers how we can best situate you. We do our very best to do that. So please let us work with stuff that is doable and reasonable for you. We can't always make promises or make things work, but we definitely do try. But don't put something down that we're going to work and spend a lot of time on that you really can't go to.
Yeah, and I would add to that and say, like if you have 3 or 4 that are solid for you, I would, if you feel like you need to fill in the other 2, the 2 locations, I would say maybe do a little work and look at something in the area of the 3 or 4 that you've got listed, that might work for you, and maybe include those. But yeah, don't put something down that you're not going to be able to make work. Joe's asking, what can someone do to increase their odds of being selected, of being a qualified applicant besides getting in shape? I would just say, Joe, be your authentic self. I would say, look at our areas of assessment, do a good self-assessment in those areas, make notes on yourself. This is something that I learned from Renee, and it's something that I ask everybody to do, is like get a notebook, get a binder, write the 10 areas of assessment as headings, and write honest notes about yourself in those areas. That way, all of the information, the time to try to remember stuff that you've done is not when you're sitting in an interview. You should have remembered all that stuff and made notes on yourself before, so that all that information is easily accessible in your mind, right? So I would say just preparing, paying attention to detail, like these are all areas that can increase your odds. Again, like think about, think about a stack of 400 applications. What's going to set you apart from everybody else in that stack of applications, right? Attention to detail, good grammar, good spelling. The first impression that you make with us is really important. So that's what I would say to that. Anything that you want to add to that, Renee?
No, I think I was just going to ask Constable Lascano here, through your process, what do you think helped you best prepare for interview, or for when you were preparing, what do you think helped you be prepared to be at your competitive level?
I think you brought up a good point. Looking back at all the achievements you've done, I mean, sometimes people overlook minor achievements, whether they be in athletics, if you achieve certain certifications. Those are all things that make you, competitive compared to other candidates. It shows that you work well with others, that you're physically, capable, you keep in shape. Speaking on a personal level, I come from a construction background, so I had a lot of team management skills. I was a foreman for the company I used to work previously to the OPP. I had a lot of certifications, whether it be blueprint reading, with heavy equipment. Those were all certifications, so it showed a form of discipline in my character, as well as working with teams, managing teams. So I mean, sometimes you'll overlook something, and believe it or not, it's actually a good point for you to kind of be more competitive to the next candidate. So, like what you said, I would definitely look back at everything you've achieved, and even though you might think it's a small achievement, it could mean something to the OPP. It could be an important asset that they might be looking into. So, yeah.
It's neat with what Ruben just said also. Just listening to him explain his past experience with one employment, he's putting a lot of check marks in many of those areas of assessment, right? So he has a career, he's working with teams, he's now a leader as a foreman. When he's working with heavy equipment, that's adding to your driving abilities. You know, are you operating heavy equipment and doing it accident free or collision free, and all those kinds of things matter. So he's putting those check marks in driving and all kinds of areas. So when you're working on those things like ongoing education or community service, you might actually be working on a few of those 10 areas of assessment at the same time.
Yeah, I always say they kind of interlace and overlap in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
So VG asks if there's any age limit to applying for the OPP. The answer to that is no. We do have a minimum requirement of 18 years. But beyond that, I always, so this is my chance to plug my podcast, Reflections Inside the OPP. Earlier this season, I had a guest named Nicola Morris, and she's not in her 20s, and she's had a career in the fitness industry, and she finished that career and decided that she wanted to pursue her dream or her goal of being an OPP officer, and now later in life she's a probationary constable at Aurora Detachment. So yeah, no age limits. And he also asked, can a foreigner who is in Canada apply too? How about you answer that one, Renee?
To apply to the OPP, you're required to be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. So once you have one of those, you can apply to the OPP to be a police officer.
And all of our minimum requirements you can find at opp.ca/careers on our webpage. So again, if there's any questions that we haven't maybe touched on during the live event today, please make sure you look at our webpage, and most of the answers that you're looking for can be found there. And we do have a frequently asked question page there as well. So make sure you take a look at that. When will the REACH program come back? I don't know if you have any more details on that, Renee. I know it's in the works. Soon.
Yeah,
it's coming soon. So stay tuned on that one, and keep an eye on our upcoming events for that.
I believe it's going to be a 9-week program this time, but you'll soon be able to get the application online and be able to apply. So please stay tuned to social media.
So Tom's asking about being a 40-year-old, if there's any chance. Of course, there's a chance, Tom, for sure, absolutely. And this goes to, listen to episode, I'm not even sure which episode it is, but it's with Nicola Morris is the constable's name. I'm not sure what the changes, people are asking, some of the changes that might be coming as a result of the announcement today. I do know that our team is working now to try to figure some of this stuff out. Obviously, yes. It's new to us as well. So I hate saying stay tuned, but I mean, stay tuned.
It's going to be busier and busier.
Yeah, all of our messaging is being updated as we speak, as far as our information sessions and kind of the information that we put out to the public regarding the announcement and any of the information in the announcement today. So just keep an eye on things. I would say you probably, if you read the article, you probably know close to as much as we know right now. But again, it's evolving, and we're figuring things out. So just kind of stay tuned for more information on that in the future. It's going to make things, I think, a lot easier for people who are interested in the career. So Sarah's telling me episode 21. Everybody has something to offer with Nicola Morris. So check that one out. Episode 21. Reflections Inside the OPP.
They're great podcasts, Dan.
Yeah, they're fun, eh?
Yeah, they are.
I find it's funny because Sarah and I talk every time we record one, and it's this is my favorite. Oh, it's
Could be.
So they're all pretty good.
Um,
I think I have my absolute favorites, but yeah, they're all really good. And it's got nothing to do with me. It's all the guests. That's what makes them so good, is the guests
you
and their
should do a
unique.
little mini podcast right now with my partner here because you might want to do a full one.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that when you were kind of introducing me to him earlier, I was saying that's an interesting story. I think we
Tell
could
us a
probably
bit
make
about yourself, Ruben. Like just a little bit about where you're from,
Okay.
and maybe a little bit about your first year with the OPP
Okay.
but not too much because we may be covering that in a podcast, and we
in a
don't want to give
podcast.
them we don't want to give them everything, right?
So a bit about myself. My parents and I immigrated to Canada back in '89. I'm not born here. I was born in Panama, in Central America, just beside Colombia, and grew up in Scarborough and Toronto. Spent there most of my life. Like I said, I joined the military as a reservist for 4 years. Always wanted to be a police officer since I was a little kid in elementary school. I joined construction because it was good money, and it was a booming economy in Toronto, as everybody knows, in the early 2000s and stuff. So I did that and got married, started my life, and my partner, she pushed me to root for the stars, and finally achieved my dream. So I applied I got in end of 2021, and yeah, I've been on the road for about a year and 3 months, and don't regret any minute of it. So I love it.
So I have a question for you, Ruben, if you don't mind me asking. I'm afraid to ask it because I feel like it's one that I would ask in a podcast. So I don't want to use it up. But how old were you when you came to Canada?
I was about 2.5.
Okay, so you wouldn't remember what the policing in Panama looked like then, obviously.
So I am aware through pictures and stuff, but it was very military based. That was just around the Noriega time, so it was a military coup. So yeah, it's very military based.
I'm just interested whenever I talk to um, international members of the OPP, people who've come from other areas, like what their experience with policing was, where they came from to what they experienced within the OPP. I think it's an interesting piece of the story. So it's too bad that you were only two. I'm glad I used it up now and not during our podcast.
Yeah.
One more thing, just because Ruben's fairly new, in this year and few months,
Yes.
what courses have you had so far, if any? I don't know, with the OPP. What have you been taught already to date?
To date, I did a course on human trafficking. I'm also on the list for the ATV course. There's a lot of courses that are offered actually in the north, more so I would say than our southern partners like West and East region. And there's a great opportunity for them because there's not that many numbers up here. Unfortunately for me, I'm still at the bottom of the totem pole where I am at, but I keep moving up every year, so I'm on the waiting list for plenty of other courses that are available to us. So.
But just finished probation, already
Yes.
got one course,
Yes.
on the list for more, already building his path. And I always say that, there's more than 6,000 of us on the front line, and we all come in with the exact same training, but the minute you meet your coach officer, your path takes different routes, and we all have a completely different fingerprint in the OPP with regards to where our careers are. And already his is so different from mine right from the beginning. So it's really interesting. All the opportunities you have within an organization at each different level.
Renee, talk about our application intake for a second, and because we do often get questions about, when's the deadline to apply for the next intake or different things like that. So just talk about how we deal with our intake of applications.
Okay. Well, we're always hiring. So what I like to tell our future applicants is you apply when you're at your competitive best. So when you are ready to be a police officer and you've taken in those information sessions and you understand our process and you are at your competitive best, submit that application. We are absolutely hiring more than ever right now. Once you submit your application, it is being processed, and it's always being processed at a steady rate because we are constantly going through these classes. We have 3 classes of regular recruits. We have 3 classes of experienced police officers going through right now per year. So the best thing to do is apply when you're at competitive best. You can be hired within a few months to 6 months. So back 20 years ago, I think my process was maybe 14 months, and we don't really see that anymore. It's pretty quick, and not everyone's the exact same. It depends when your application comes in, but you can literally be hired in a few months to 6 months and being offered your employment, your career.
Okay, I'm going to try to hit a few quick ones here. So somebody was asking earlier about detachment placements and what their odds are of getting kind of where their partner doesn't necessarily want to move, but they want to, realize their dream of being a police officer. So you get 6 detachment choices, and we really do try our best to get you in one of those 6. And if we can't, then we try to place you in one that's very close to one of those 6. So we do everything that we can based on the offer that's given at the time of the offer, based on the operational needs of the organization and vacancies at the detachments that you've listed. So sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, but we do really try our best. Somebody asked, Johnny asked about the next episode of Reflections. Actually, it's funny that you asked, Johnny, but on Friday I'm recording another episode. So with an officer named Scott Chalkley. He's in the human trafficking unit. So I'm looking forward to having some interesting conversation with Scott. He's out of Kenora with the human trafficking unit there. So that'll be an interesting one. Somebody was also asking about Russell. So for posting preference, I was wondering if Russell County and Russell County Rockland count as separate choices. Yes, they do. So again, one is a satellite, one is the host location. So if you're interested in both of those, they would both be listed separately. And the same with Grenville County Kempville and Grenville County Prescott, because they're different work locations. So there's still Grenville County satellites, right? But they're different locations. So we need you to list them separately.
And some of the satellites are maybe an hour away from each other. So it's important because some of them might be more preferable. And make sure you put them in order as well, that number 1's your number 1 choice, then number 2, number 3. So put them in order of your preference as well.
Brett is asking if Police Foundations is still considered a benefit prior to applying. Are there any disadvantages to applying without having it? So I say a couple things about Police Foundations. Any education that you get is going to make you more competitive. The benefit of having Police Foundations is that it's really police-oriented learning. So some of the stuff you're learning in Police Foundations, you will see when you are hired and go to the Ontario Police College. It's a lot of the same content. So that would likely make it easier for you when you're at OPC, because it's familiar stuff and you already have some exposure to it. That being said, is there disadvantages to applying without having it? It depends on the applicant, I guess. Every applicant has their own strengths, and every applicant has their kind of own journey through life. And if we look at those 10 areas of assessment, we don't put more weight on one area than other areas, right? So it's the complete package that we really do try to explore and look at that makes somebody more competitive. So yes.
Keep in mind with your post-secondary too, the key is your grades. You're going to the Ontario Police College, you require a 75% to graduate police college. So whatever you decide to do, whatever you want to focus on, just work hard and come out with the best grades that you can. And that's super helpful for us as well, because we just need to know that you're teachable and trainable. And again, with the police foundations, it's super easy for us to know that you're understanding the concepts if you're taking those programs and you're getting fantastic grades. So whatever you do or decide to do, just work hard and come out with the best grades you can.
So Steve is asking about the resume, and what a professional resume looks like and how many pages it should be. I would say, and just reading your comments here, Steve, you sound like you have a lot of experience. Um, 5 pages for your resume. I think that's a lot of experience. So I think ideally 2 pages is, I think it's kind of an industry standard across the board as far as like, like a one page
Cover.
cover letter and then a couple pages for your resume. I think that's kind of what the industry standard looks like. I get that you want to sell yourself and put as much detail in there as possible, but just remember, we do also have our application where we're going to ask you to list all of your previous employment and different things on the application as well. So we will capture that information and we will have access to that information. Dev is asking about how to prepare for an interview. That is a long conversation. I would just say, like, be really self-aware. And like I said, the trick that Renee uses about, using the areas of assessment as headings and then doing good honest self-assessment and making notes on yourself, all that information will be at the forefront of your mind and it will be easily accessed, so you won't even have to think about your responses too much in an interview. So again, just prepare, pay attention to detail, be thorough, really know yourself, right? And be open and honest. And I would say, the thing that people probably fear the most about interviews is like mistakes that they've made in the past and having to talk about those things. But really be accountable for the things you've done in the past. And I would say, articulate what kind of a learning experience some of those not so great decisions have been in your life. So that's what I would say about interviewing. Can you still apply with your high school diploma? Yes, you can. I'm trying to find a question for you, Renee.
That's okay. Well, thank you. I think just remembering too that, you have those minimum qualifications that are listed there on the website and you have your minimum here. But remember, when we're having thousands of applications coming in, that our competitive level will be higher than that minimum. And that's why you have to understand those areas of assessment and you have to bring your competitive best, because our competitive level in the OPP is higher than those minimum standards. Okay, so it's that overall value, like Dan was saying, of your entire file, but bring your competitive best in every area. And always remember, it's always fluid. So no matter what, you're never done learning. If you're going to apply to the OPP and be in this organization for 30 years, it is a nonstop learning environment for 30 years. So we need to know that you embrace learning and you have ongoing learning all the time in your life. When you're done college, it doesn't stop there. When you're done university, it doesn't stop there. Keep learning personally. You don't have to go and enroll in a third tuition, but there's so many opportunities for learning, even in practical settings. You don't always have to be in a classroom, right? You can take wilderness training, you can take ATV training and all those kinds of things, even on your own. Whatever suits you, bring some transferable skills into policing, but you're always going to be doing some ongoing learning within the OPP, guaranteed.
Constable Lozano, what's your favorite part of the job? What advice would you give to yourself if you could go back before you applied?
So favorite part of my job, I would have to say, is initiating traffic stops. I feel like that's the one part of our career where we can be more proactive. Every traffic stop is honestly different. You get to interact with people. I guess it kind of also helps with the stigma nowadays with the public and police. I consider myself pretty introverted, so when I talk to the public, I try to put a smile on their face, try to show them that not every police interaction is a negative one. Yeah, and sometimes you'll catch an impaired, sometimes you'll catch some drugs, open alcohol. Like I said, that's probably my favorite part of my job so far would be the traffic stops. Again, it's always something different, and it's a good way to interact with the public. And to answer your second part, if I were to go back and talk to myself, I'd probably say, you know what, like, be confident about yourself. Again, like I said, I was very introverted. I would say be confident. Be confident in your abilities. Take your time. Think through things when you're doing your whole process. And, just be proud that you're applying and taking the initiative to do it. And just be confident in your own abilities. And you'll see that you'll go far. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. So we're getting close to 3 o'clock here, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, I know that I know that we don't always get to all of the questions, and that's one thing that I don't like about doing these AMAs is I wish I could answer everybody's question, but again, time kind of limits us a little bit on that. So. I apologize if we didn't hit your question. Tune in again next week. There will be another AMA, and you can throw your question in there again. Like I said, I'm having a couple information sessions on Monday and Wednesday of next week. Monday at 12 o'clock, Wednesday at 7. So if you want to register for those and ask any of the questions that we weren't able to get to in those sessions, I'd be happy to try to answer them to the best of my ability then. So, Renee.
That's it. Just stay tuned because I know Police Week's coming up as well. There's just going to be a lot going on the upcoming events on www.opp.ca. So remember to go there for every single document that you require for the recruitment process, from regards to every single stage of the process, including our audio for shuttle run is there. Like everything is there and it's always updated and current. So when I need something, I go to that site because it's always there, everything that you need. So go to the site, visit it, understand a little bit about the OPP, look in the recruitment links, and come on out to the events and talk to the recruiters. And also the weekly Ask Me Anythings. You can come on and ask your 1 or 2 questions you have through the process if you have a couple of questions you want to ask a recruiter. So definitely keep visiting us online as well. And thanks for coming out today.
And you could also, if there are questions that you don't want to wait to have answered, you can email uniformrecruitment@opp.ca and ask those questions, and somebody will get back to you with an answer. Or you can DM us on social media. I sound like one of the kids. DM me. So direct message us on social media with any questions that you have as well. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Constable Lozano, for being a part of this today. Appreciate what you're doing out there, and appreciate
for teaching me all this morning.
I was going to say it's probably been a tough day trying to remind Constable Taylor of everything. Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you do. I did a ride along a couple of weeks ago, and it's surprising the new technology and how it works. So it's pretty interesting. So thanks everybody. Take care and be